Hollow Knight, Celeste, and Stardew Valley have all sold over 1 million copies across all platforms. And I couldn't find any confirmed total figures, but Hollow Knight and Stardew Valley are well above that number. So I'm approaching this video as a person who played and loved all 3 of these games. So this is really just my opinion. I really don't want to make it seem like I'm coming at this from some sort of marketing expert angle, because I'm not. I'm just another indie developer who really loved these games. And since this channel is focused solely on content for indie game developers, I wanted to take a look at these games and try to figure out why they did so well and why they all seem to be universally loved. I'm Brandon, and my wife Nikki and I make games and videos about all things game dev. Welcome to the channel, and I hope you enjoy. You might have heard the expression, to be successful with anything, it's 90% marketing, 5% quality, and 5% luck. And I don't really believe in luck. I think luck could be renamed to miscellaneous, or an other category, which is a combination of things like genre, timing, trends that were happening at the time of release, and things like that. But regardless, I do think this expression is an expression for a reason. So before I really dive in, I want to state that no matter the quality, no matter the amount of time spent on development, no matter anything else, marketing was needed. In order for a game to explode in popularity, it has to be played. And for a game to be played, people have to know that it exists. Hollow Knight had a very successful Kickstarter campaign, and they hired a PR specialist. Celeste was made by a dev who was already successful, and they marketed it very heavily on their social media, and they showcased it at PAX West. Stardew Valley had a notable publisher, and was marketed on various internet communities, and was given to prominent Twitch streamers as a beta at a very strategic time during development. Marketing is important. If you are an indie developer, you cannot sit alone in your room and code in secret for years and then finally unveil your masterpiece and expect to make millions. There's too much competition out there, and there's really no reason for anybody to be hyped about your game if you've never successfully made a game before. So with that out of the way, let's talk about why these games exploded in popularity. And in terms of unique hooks, these games took a really interesting approach. Hollow Knight is just another 2D Metroidvania. In terms of mechanics and gameplay, there's really nothing too unique about it. Celeste is a pixel art platformer in a sea of pixel art platformers, and Stardew Valley is a spiritual successor to Harvest Moon. If it had been received badly, people would have just named it a Harvest Moon clone. Now again, I love all of these games, so we need to dig a little bit deeper than this. But I do feel like it needs to get thrown out that there is a lot of advice that gets thrown out in this space that says your game must have a unique hook, and it doesn't. At least in terms of mechanics. None of these games are terribly unique in how they play. There's no weird fusion of 2 genres. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing that people haven't already seen before. In fact, all 3 of them kind of go the other way, and they just stick to their guns. They know what kind of game they are, and they wear it as a badge of honor. And they don't try to be more than what they are. They do what they do, and they do it really, really well. A lot of opinions get thrown around in the indie game dev scene like they are facts. Like you need a unique mechanical hook. You don't. Or you need to show players something that they've literally never seen before in a game. You don't. Or you won't make any money if you develop a platformer. That's not true. All 3 of these games support this. Now, a unique mechanic might give you a statistical edge, but it also has the drawback of falling flat with audiences if they don't like it. There are pros and cons to literally every creative decision that you make. So don't let anyone tell you that there are rules to being successful in the indie game dev space. There are no rules, there's just data. And the data from these 3 games shows that you don't necessarily need a unique hook. I'm not saying a unique hook is bad, you just don't have to have one. Not if your game does what it does really, really well. So for me, the story and themes with Celeste and Stardew Valley were really, really strong, not so much with Hollow Knight. And entire YouTube careers have been created based on Hollow Knight lore, so I very much understand it has deep, rich lore. I just personally didn't really understand it or care all that much when I was playing the game for the first time. But that doesn't mean I didn't pick up on the fact that the infection was spreading, corrupting all these cute little bugs in Hollow Nest, going on a journey to save the world, the hero's sacrifice, all of that good stuff. I picked up on that from the environment in the game alone. Celeste told its story masterfully. Madeline needing to climb a literal mountain to overcome her anxiety and her fears, fighting the dark, scared part of herself before ultimately kind of merging with it and accepting that it was a part of her in order to climb even higher. That's the story of life and personal growth and overcoming struggles. But it's just turned very literal in Celeste. Stardew Valley starts with you working in a 9-to-5 job in some really gross corporate setting. Everyone's depressed and everything is all gray. And finally, you open a letter that you got from your grandpa years and years ago, and it reveals a deed to a farm. So you move out to this tiny little town, you become a part of the community, and slowly but surely you grow your dream farm and make all these friends along the way. Unless you're like really, really young, I think that most people who played Stardew Valley can really relate to the statement made in the intro of that game. There will come a day where you feel crushed by the burden of modern life, and your bright spirit will fade before a growing emptiness. That's life for a lot of adults. Wake up, go to work, come home, do whatever for a couple of hours, go to sleep, and then wake up and do it all over again. And in the game, the town Stardew Valley is the escape from all of that. All three games are absolutely gorgeous. Stardew Valley and Celeste utilize pixel art really, really well, and Hollow Knight uses the hand-drawn style. Games get judged by how they look. That's how it is. Undertale and like Minecraft are the only two games I can think of that are super ugly and yet manage to do really, really well. But maybe that's subjective and it's just my opinion. I don't know. I think they're ugly. But the art and the mood go hand in hand with games. Hollow Knight's dark tunnels and really desaturated world really helps you understand just how hopeless the world has become there. Stardew Valley is bright and vibrant to help go along with its feel-good atmosphere, and I feel like Celeste uses a pretty good mixture of vibrant colors and really dark tones, which goes along with the story of that game really, really well. Celeste's panic attack scene gives me goosebumps. I have never heard music that so perfectly captures the feeling of anxiety before, but then it has an equal number of uplifting parts as well. I will randomly get Stardew Valley music stuck in my head completely out of the blue. Anytime I hear a track from that game, it just immediately puts me into a happy place. And I purchased the Hollow Knight soundtrack so that I could listen to it in my car. If atmosphere is the heart of a game, then music is the soul. When I play games with no sound, it's like they're flat and dead. So obviously the music really works in their favor here. Pacing is a really hard thing to get right in games, but all three of these games really nail it. Hollow Knight, while it can be really, really easy to get lost, there's always something to find, something to fight, something to do, or some place to explore. I found that the art and the music and the challenging gameplay helped to keep me engaged when I did get lost in that game. But when I wasn't lost, I was constantly hunting for the next power-up, the next boss, the next charm, the next treasure. I was always hunting for something. Celeste is incredibly difficult. I think I've logged over 1,000 deaths in that game, but you respawn really quickly and the rooms are very small, so that really helps to keep the frustration to a minimum. At certain times it did feel like a rage game to me, but for the most part it felt like a perfectly doable, challenging platformer that constantly stretched my abilities as a player. Stardew Valley kept me up till the wee hours of the morning many, many times. It's really easy to just have to do one more day in that game. There's always that next thing you want to do. You're grinding away at your farm, you want to craft something, you want to mine something. There's always the next thing that you want to do in Stardew Valley. The thing about these games is that there is a quality to all of them that's really hard to nail down. It's the same feeling I had when I played Ocarina of Time for the first time, or Super Mario RPG, or Super Metroid, or any of my favorite games from when I was a kid. There is an element of magic to them. And I know that that's a frustrating thing for me to say because there's no data that you can analyze that helps you understand why a game feels like magic. But all three of these games, they work really hard to make you feel immersed in their world and their story. And there's one feeling that I can identify with all three of them while I play, and that's the feeling of longing. I want to insert myself into those worlds and into those stories so very badly. I want to break past the barriers that Team Cherry made for Hallownest and see what the rest of that world looks like. I want to adventure right next to Madeline as she climbs the mountain and then falls and then climbs it again. And I desperately want to live in Stardew Valley and have a farm just like that. I felt the same with Ocarina of Time. I wanted to live with the Kokiri in a treehouse. I also wanted to live in Clocktown in the Majora's Mask game. My favorite movies, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Avatar, Lord of the Rings, longing. Same emotion. Something about these stories and their settings made me long to spend more time in those worlds. Spend more time exploring, finding every upgrade, building the perfect farm, and finding all the secrets. And as indie developers, I think it's really important for us to remember that we are here to craft an experience for the players. And if you can create an experience that makes them long to live in your world, your game's gonna do just fine, as long as you remember to market as well. That's all I got. Let us know down in the comments what you loved about these games, or if you didn't love these games, let us know what it is you did not like down below. Like the video if you liked. Bye. I want to give a very special thank you to all of our Hall of Fame patrons, Jakob Yondok, Christopher Nichols, Zonder Kessler, Fontaine Waite, Brainwaves to Binary, Couch, Dan Brooking, and Ian Oral, as well as our early access patrons. Ken Waite, Mason Crow, Mr. D, Jan, Liquid Egg, Alexander Prestis, Farragon Studios, Abdulaziz Hamad Alanazi, Ober, Bill Guo, Alone on Mars, Code Jutsu, Ayash Sharma, Alex Friedman, Neil, Danny X, and Ben Kerberger. If you choose to support us on Patreon, you can get early access to all of our YouTube videos, monthly alpha builds, and more.